Pelosi, while she's been defending the War Powers Resolution, also has had to defend her handling of impeachment. She's getting some pressure from Democrats. Now looks like she's inching closer to sending those articles of impeachment against President Trump finally over to the Senate, but on her timeline. Here's what she said.
Now, in terms of impeachment, you will keep asking me the same question. I keep giving you the same answer. As I said right from the start, we need to see the arena in which we are sending our managers. Is that too much to ask?
Are you holding the articles indefinitely?
No, I'm not holding them indefinitely. I'll send them over when I'm ready. And that will probably be soon.
So, Jake, on the other side, you've had Leader McConnell who said, I'm not really going to show you the arena. I don't really owe you that explanation. Send him over. We'll have a trial. Of course, he's already said that he's not an impartial juror, that he's coordinating with the White House. So when will she be satisfied with what she sees over in the Senate enough to send over the articles of impeachment?
Well, it's a good question because she's not going to see anything in the Senate.
Right.
So that's a question that you might want to pose to her, because Mitch McConnell has said flatly, no, I'm not going to show you the rules. It's going to be close to the Clinton rules, which are obviously already out and searchable online. So listen, Nancy Pelosi's detractors argue that she has wasted 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and she could have sent this over a couple weeks ago or this week to get this trial started. And she's already impeached the president. She might as well send the articles to the Senate. Her allies and her aides have said that she's forced a weeks-long discussion on whether the Senate should have witnesses baked into the process. Of course, witnesses might or might not be part of the process. They'll be subject to a majority vote in the Senate during the impeachment trial. This might make people's eyes glaze over, but that's the reality. And listen, Nancy Pelosi is going to send these over, and she's not going to see the rules for the trial. So it's fair to ask what exactly she's accomplished. But people in her orbit believe that she has at least notched a political victory by forcing this weeks-long discussion. There'll be a lot of discussion about that. But I imagine, based on what she said yesterday, the clip you just showed, she is going to send these articles, if not today, I don't think it'll be today, but Monday or Tuesday, which would begin the impeachment trial next Thursday or Friday-ish, depending on when she sends them. And then the impeachment trial will get started. So
Jake,
that's the dynamic.
But what will be different that day, a few days from now, than it is today? I mean, what's Mitch McConnell going to change? So then what will have been her leverage? What will she have achieved?
Leverage is a dynamic when each side needs something from the other side. Mitch McConnell doesn't need anything for Nancy Pelosi, so the leverage I don't know if she ever said it, but the leverage that her allies believed that she had, she actually never had. She never was able to change the rules. Mitch McConnell, like him or not, has a very, very tight grip on Republicans in the Senate. And he came out into the microphones earlier this week and said, listen, I have my entire conference, all 53 senators behind me. And if you would like to send me the articles, great. If not, I'll move on to passing a trade deal and confirming more conservative justices. So Mitch McConnell never needed anything from Nancy Pelosi. So there was never any leverage. It was all imagined and kind of a political stunt, which didn't cost anybody anything. It wasn't damaging. It's not like shutting down the government. It just put us in this suspended state of pause for 2 weeks for seemingly little practical reason, although you could argue there was a political reason.
Yeah, Joe, Mitch McConnell was asked last night about Nancy Pelosi's demand to see the rules for the trial. He said flatly, yeah, we're not going to do that, and kept walking.
Well, you know, though, you look at what's happened since Nancy Pelosi's delayed this instead of rushing it through. Suddenly, John Bolton, perhaps the most important witness to all of this, says he'll come forward and talk. Given the right opportunity, that may get a couple of Republican senators to vote to hear that testimony. Also, the last 2 days have shown once again how repugnant some political figures are willing to be on the House side. As Charles Pierce said, Karine, it's not a great secret that a lot of Senate Republicans see their House counterparts as, quote, bad seeds. And when you have them running around saying that Democrats love terrorists more than Gold Star parents, again, it just is another mark on House Republicans, on the Republican Party themselves. And if you don't think, I'm not talking about you, but if people out there don't think that that doesn't place pressure on Republicans who don't want to be associated with that sort of action, those sort of words, who have to run statewide instead of a safely gerrymandered district in Colorado or Arizona or Maine or North Carolina or Florida, then they don't understand politics. This has been a boon, I think, been very positive for Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic cause.
I agree with you, Joe. I mean, one thing that you mentioned that Charlie Pierce said is that nearly every day that she's held on to these two pieces of articles of impeachment, we've heard more explosive information and details. But another thing that has happened is we have now had this national conversation about how unfair this trial is potentially going to be because of Mitch McConnell essentially saying he is going to be an accomplice for Donald Trump, to help Donald Trump. And so I think that is really key and important. And you have to think about it. If Mitch McConnell is saying that, why would Nancy Pelosi hand over the two articles of impeachment when he's saying he's going to set up an unfair trial? But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Joe. I think at the end of the day, she is going to move forward. Clearly, she has to give forth the articles of impeachment. I say if I were her, what I would do is the day that she does that, she also the House subpoenas John Bolton to testify. I mean, there are a bunch of things that she can do that, and we know she's smart and she's strategic, and this is what she has said. And one last thing, too, is we found out from the public that they want witnesses. They want a fair trial. And so by holding on to this, she has really helped us get more information out there, help the public see what exactly is going on. And to your point, Joe, there is political ramifications for Mitch McConnell. He has a very small margin of error if he wants to hold on to the majority. Kansas is potentially now in play because Pompeo has said he's not going to run for Senate, the U.S. Senate.
By the way, Mitch McConnell's sitting at, 18% in his own state. Everywhere he goes, he's had people shouting in open rallies, Moscow Mitch. He's going to have a hell of a rough run in 2020. I don't care how cocky people are that send out the videos that say Cocaine Mitch. You know what? Those dollar bills, Willie, that they have going through the Cocaine Mitch little video tribute, it's going to be rubles by the fall that he's counting. Because he's going to be up for a tough fight. Cory Gardner's up for a tough fight. Martha McSally's up for a tough fight. Susan Collins, dear Lord, she's going to be up for a tough fight. And Mr. 32% himself, Tom Tillis in North Carolina, also going to be up for a tough fight. So, and you look at these numbers, I mean, by 20 percentage points, people want to see witnesses in the Senate trial. Yeah. You even look at this poll that Donnie was talking about, by 20 percentage points. People think Donald Trump was reckless this past week as commander-in-chief. Republicans who are running around celebrating, they don't know what they're celebrating, Mika. They don't. They're getting crushed in every one of these polls. Even on the issue of impeachment, the majority of Americans believe Donald Trump should have been impeached. In a lot of polls, including a Fox News poll, they want him impeached and removed. They're on the wrong side of public opinion. They're on the wrong side of history. And why they are still running around, I guess they can afford to in gerrymandered districts in the House. But Republican senators, you better at least pretend to be having a fair trial and at least pretend that you want to hear from these witnesses and get them over there.
You might want to hear from them.
Because let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I've seen this before with my buddies that were going down to defeat. Moscow Mitch won't be there your last 10 days of your campaign in Colorado. He won't. He's going to be fighting for his own political life. Moscow Mitch won't be sending money to Maine. He's going to be flooding it into media markets around Lexington, Kentucky, because he's going to be fighting for his political life. Moscow Mitch, he's not going to be in the Research Triangle in North Carolina campaigning for you, Tommy boy. He's not going to be there. He's going to be fighting for his own political life. So if you want this process to look rigged, you're going to pay for it the last 10 days of your campaign. Look at the polls. and choose wisely.
Goodness, it's just free advice right there for
Choose
you.
wisely. You want the knight to actually say he chose wisely. You need to choose wisely.
Okay. Politico's Jake Sherman, thank you very much for being on this morning.
Indiana Jones, by the way, and Final Crusade, one of the
There
best,
you
Willie.
go.
One of the best, right?
Just
Classic.
so many movies.
That was a classic.
Okay. Still ahead.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.